Some of the greatest directors who ever lived had quite the swan song to go out on. The Turin Horse Bela Tarr, the depressing black and white, stunning film. Or how about Yasujiro Ozu's An Autumn Afternoon? Just a terrific all-around film that I absolutely love. But if you're talking about something from Stanley Kubrick that absolutely floored me with how good it was, and I hadn't seen it in decades, Eyes Wide Shut, his last film, 5-star masterpiece and one of the very finest films of that decade. I had not realized until this last rewatch how perfectly, just a stunning, like everything about it. Absolutely love it. And it's one of my favorite releases, and I'm sure that's the case for many of you, of this year that Criterion's put out. And I just, I have such an admiration for this film and Stanley Kubrick in general, right? I mean, we all have a favorite Kubrick at times, and it might change. You know, sometimes mine's The Shining, sometimes it's Barry Lyndon, whatever it is. We all, those of us who love films, I think we all at least have one or two Kubricks that we love, and this is certainly one of them. The theme of this film that I'm so glad Stanley Kubrick did not beat around the bush. He didn't even hint at this. He made it pretty darn clear. Money can get you out of just about anything. Social status, standing. If you have the right connections and you have the right bank account, you're going to be okay in life, even when you make grave, big mistakes. And that's certainly the case for these two. I love this cover. Makes a lot of sense once you watch the film. Alice and Bill, Dr. Bill. They're a married couple. If you haven't seen this or you don't remember too much about it, they're a married couple. He's a doctor. It seems like he's pretty well connected. We see him at a party early on with his wife, and they're drinking, and they're both flirting with different people. There's a great dance scene where Nicole Kidman is absolutely enchanted by an older man. You kind of wonder some of the motivation on both ends there. It's a really terrifically filmed dance scene with those two. And then you have Tom Cruise with these two younger girls that are a lot less sophisticated than her potential possible dalliance is. And something happens and he has to help someone, played by Sidney Pollack, in a terrific performance there. And that sets the stage for other events. There are a lot of little interesting plot pieces that are carefully woven in the beginning and in places you don't expect. And the whole thing kind of comes full circle so brilliantly. But I think something that was off-putting for some folks when they first watched this is they probably maybe wanted 100% total, like Stanley Kubrick neo-realism, and this is supposed to be exactly, like you're supposed to take this exactly literally at all times. And I don't know that that's the case. I think that there's a true dreamlike quality to this that I don't want to call it surrealism, but none of it's meant to be taken 100% literally, I don't think. Even the city doesn't quite look exactly real. It's so stylized and beautiful to look at, and the color schemes in this are just gorgeous. The yellows, the reds, the blue, especially the blues. The blues in this are great. It reminded me a little bit of some of the Chantal Akerman moments from Jeanne Diamond there. The end scene of that, just really pretty. And so you're questioning how much of this is meant to be taken somewhat as a dream, maybe a Gary Ref of God, or something, just like I said, a little bit less literal at times in the way it's presented. But what is not, what is not stylized particularly is the grueling conditions and hardships that the female sex workers go through in this film. They are given so little agency and autonomy and protection, and there's a strong women's rights message in here that I think is so much more effective than the ham-fisted stuff we sometimes see in lesser films. I mean, this is a truly frustrating story at times, watching how they're treated. And in general, there's the infamous sex cult stuff, and I think for some people they sort of looked at that and they wanted to kind of laugh it off or like disregard the film for that reason. But I actually think that stuff's really well done. Again, there is a little bit of the playing around with reality element to where am I in a dream when I'm like, is he in a dream? Like, what am I really seeing while I'm watching this? There is a conversation in a pool room between two of the characters that is a little bit more haunting and realistic, and there is this sense of horror in the film. The piano, the notes. It's actually funny when I was listening to some of the eerie piano keys playing and watching Tom Cruise like walk through a hallway looking sad and sullen. Reminded me a little bit of Hell House, the found footage film, where the little clown's playing the notes. So there is a horror element to this. It can be kind of scary. But you have all that. Then there's just like this beautiful jazz club, and it's really relaxing. And you're like kind of frustrated that you catch the end of this jazz number, and the Christmas lights are everywhere, and it's really fun to watch when you're doing a lot of Christmas decorating. We've been decorating all over the place for Christmas. We got all kinds of stuff up there for the holidays, and I think that just adds just this little bit of bonus fun to it. But the most interesting character for me is just kind of Nicole Kidman, and we don't get as much Kidman as we do Cruise, but that sort of helps. She has a great monologue in the film where she discusses a lot of her own sexuality and her own desires and insecurities and his insecurities, and that is just a really effective scene. It can be kind of funny. The film can be darkly comedic, which I always love in my Kubrick films. And if you read in the booklet and different places online and different reviews, you'll notice that the dialogue is a little bit theatrical. It is a little bit less than, like I said, that ultra realism that you might expect. And I think it works in the film's favor. Something I had kind of subconsciously noticed when I was looking through this booklet, which I really like. I wanted to read you a little segment about repetition in the film, because Stanley Kubrick is so good at weaving in stuff that you just don't even quite necessarily realize, even if you're looking for it. So let me read you this part about repetition. This is on page 9 of the booklet. Definitely check into that. So this says the repetitions persist. Oh, sorry, wrong part. A central structure of dreams, or at least in the Freudian sense, is repetition. And the movie increasingly gives itself over to a constellation of recurring images, words, and symbols. And these are some you might notice. Rainbows, masks are a big deal in this film, and they're creepy. Past notes, Christmas trees, mannequin perfect nudes. That's an important image in the film, how everything can feel kind of artificial or like mannequins. Long corridors, the color red. Such echoes bleed over into Bill's dialogue in some scenes, consisting mostly of his repeating back what the other person has already said. And it feels a little bit Jack Nicholson, The Shining at times. I wondered when I was watching Cruise deliver the dialogue, how much he was trying to tune into that. What I love most about this film, Stanley Kubrick could have played it safe. He could have played this material very safe. He could have toned down the stylizing. He could have made this more literal. He could have made the conversation more literal. He could have made the whole thing less dreamy. But that's part of the point. There should be an air, an aura of something fantastical to this, while still feeling, just horrible at times. I mean, there's this guy that practically sells out his own daughter. And that kind of being dipped into the most horrible parts of society while still having this beautiful exterior, this dreamy exterior, this idea that maybe there's a better world that could be had. I think that is just the brilliance of Kubrick here. And like I said, he could have played it safer than that. He could have made a more conventional film. This isn't as jarring as something like Clockwork Orange, for sure. And I do think it's a little bit more bound to reality than, say, The Shining, which I have the film vault version of up there. I can't wait to watch again. And it also feels, feels a little different. It doesn't feel like Paths of Glory. It doesn't feel like The Killing. It doesn't feel like 2001: A Space Odyssey or Barry Lyndon. I mean, it feels like Kubrick wanted to do something truly different for him. And I don't think I've seen anything quite like it. And I was so happy to watch this again and for it to just be like one of my favorite films I had seen in a while. When I talk about great releases this year, The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, which I really liked, Winchester, I think that was this year, the Winchester film with James Stewart. But this thing here, folks, is among my very favorites. Maybe, I don't know, it might be my favorite of the year. My wife watched it with me. We had a really good experience with it. And the ending of this film, the dialogue, leaves so much to your imagination as to where the story continues. You could have 1,000 theories, and they could all be correct. There's another thing. The film's fun to sort of dissect and think about. Well, what's this character? What's this character's role in this cult, right? What's this? What's the doctor going to do next? I mean, the motivations. It's just endless speculation you can do with the film, and it's very good for it. So, as you can tell, I like this film quite a bit, and I mean, Stanley Kubrick. You're going to like his films most likely if you like films. So, tell me in your comments, your thoughts in the comments. Give me that thumbs up button if you don't mind. Hopefully this was helpful. Tell me what Kubrick movies you like, what you've been watching. Do you have a favorite? Stuff like that. And subscribe if you haven't to Cody in the Cinema.